We approve the minutes of 7/17/23 and 7/27/23. What's your pleasure? Everybody see them?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Move that we accept the minutes of 7/17 and 7/27.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? You need to address the agenda?
Nope,
Okay.
no adjustment.
Here, citizens. Are you here for your citizens, John?
I'm not on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I want to speak briefly about the reappraisal notice you folks got.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure that it caught everybody's attention. Act 46, which what triggered the whole conversation was last year when the CLAs tanked from all the high sales numbers, and they started looking comprehensively at what should trigger a reappraisal. And the new system, the CLA doesn't matter what it is. The CLA, high tax rate, bad CLA, they equalize each other. Your tax bill stays basically the same. COD, coefficient of dispersion, is different. That means that you're paying more, you're paying less. So that's a more important number to make sure that it's up to date. Why yours took the dip that it did between, what was it, 18, 19 when you did your reappraisal? It had to have something to do with sales. I know that like land values did not escalate like land with a building on it did. Commercial didn't. So the coefficient of dispersion, don't ask me to tell you what the categories are. I'm not, that's way beyond my pay scale. But that COD number makes sure that everybody is on the same, ranch style house over here and a ranch style over here are being appraised the same. I can give you some numbers. Weathersfield, we knew we were coming up for appraisal, period. And they sent out an RFP probably 3 months ago to get some numbers. And this may be useful, but the numbers came in at $107 per parcel. You guys got 1,121, so you're looking at $123,000. I don't know what Cavendish does with the money that the state, is it $6 or $8 per?
I don't remember, but we
Okay,
told it.
anyway, the state sends, call it 8, be optimistic. They send you $8 per parcel, and I know some towns have used that money to run their lister department, which means they're not saving up anything for reappraisal. I'm not sure what you folks have done. Hopefully you've saved at least some of it. Yeah, that's good news. A couple other things on Act 46. It's going to require any listers. You guys sub yours out to NIMRIC, so this shouldn't be an issue. But towns that choose the guy that raises his hand as a lister, those days are going to be over. You're going to have the proper training, and that makes sense. It's a very technical job, and it needs to be accurate. You got. Have you guys sent in your reply yet? Probably not. Okay. It was 30 days. The letter came out a week before last, I think. So the clock is ticking to send in your reply. You can appeal that your COD wasn't calculated properly. You want to talk to NIMRIC to see if there's any justification for doing that. And where I'm going with that is that you guys are not in a unique situation. I mean, the tax department looks back 3 years, okay? So last year when the numbers were starting to go all over the place, we were starting to pick up the COVID numbers. We're still picking up the COVID numbers, and we will again next year, and then we're gonna be back to what probably will be the new normal. So where I'm going with that is that probably there's going to be a huge demand for reappraisals. Towns all over the state are going to be sending out, trying to get prices, quotes, time spans, when it can be done. I know Weathersfield, we were told it would be 3 years out. They're going to start next year. So I can't say whether or not the company that they contracted with said they'll start next year. Whether or not the letters are going to trigger a substantial, it can't help but there's going to aren't enough appraisers, the companies in the state, to handle the workload that's going to be coming up. My advice, sandbag. Put it off as long as you can. Accumulate the funds for the next couple of years. And the other part of Act 46 is, and don't hold your breath, is they got to have a report back by December of this year from the tax department on implementing a statewide reappraisal. In other words, you folks, you won't have to worry about it again. And then by December of 24, they have to have the final plan out. One thing I've learned in my service up Montpelier is that dates come and dates go. So if those dates slide, it wouldn't surprise me a bit. This is a big
That's a big
demand
shift.
on the tax department.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you, don't worry about it. You're gonna have to do a reappraisal because let's see, your COD was 22.82 and your CLA is 82. Here's the good news, if you will, and this I learned just a couple weeks ago. They making some phone calls. You guys got significant utility infrastructure in town. You got Coolidge, you got the generating station and stuff. Utilities are allowed to multiply. If let's say they got round numbers, $10 million you're on the grand list, they're allowed to multiply their appraised value by the CLA, and that's what they get taxed on. So right now, your utilities are being taxed at 18% less than what they will be if you're at 100%. So it isn't horrible that when you do a reappraisal in towns that have a big utility infrastructure. I don't know what your numbers are, but they got to be by far the biggest taxpayer in town, I would assume.
Well, we just did our last one, 19, right?
Right.
19, so the last reappraisal, so
I agree. But, well,
that's screwy.
Also in Act 46, it can be every 6 years. So if the state takes it over, well, it's going to be an enormous job for however they set it up. But in my estimation, 6 years is really excessive. I mean, there just aren't, especially in a lot of the small towns, there just aren't that many changes to justify doing it every 6 years. But that's only my own opinion. That they didn't pull that number out of the air. It came probably from some cities or something where property values really are changing significantly year to year. But nonetheless, that's the way it's written right now, is every 6 years, everybody's going to do a reappraisal. And if it's done by the state, it just means that while we're paying for it, it's the same, it's still going to come out of our pockets one way or another. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
What does that mean? That if instead of giving us money, they'll start charging us?
There's no,
Or
well, the tax department runs out of the general fund. The general fund is generated by a potpourri of different taxes. So that's where the money's going to come from, but it doesn't, as we all know, money doesn't fall out of the trees. So whether or not, of course, that means you guys won't be getting your, we'll call it $8, but it might be $6. So there is a substantial amount of money statewide that would get thrown back into that pool because they're not going to give you money. And
yeah, because that's never covered it. We've always said it covered.
and I did the quick math, like in Weathersfield. Let's say we finish ours in 2 years, a year and a half, whatever it happens to be, and we start accumulating. And Weathersfield is bankrolled, and every year we get enough to do it 2 times. So by sandbagging, which our select board had done for years, I mean, our was over 12 years old. I think it was almost 14 years old. So they had taken that fee and put it right into a kitty, never touched it, and the money's there. I really feel for the towns that have chosen to use the money to run their lister department and have nothing in the bank. That's really going to be painful. And the way that they're asking you to do it or telling you to do it, your letter from 30 days, you gotta tell them what you're gonna do. And, okay, we're gonna send out an RFP, okay, if you don't have the money in your budget, are you gonna put, well, yours wouldn't come out, if the Weathersfield numbers hold, which they probably won't, your appraisal's gonna come in somewhere around $130,000. You imagine tacking that onto your budget in 1 year? That wouldn't be pretty.
But you can appeal that. You can appeal that decision.
What's that?
You can appeal that.
You can appeal it. I was just talking to Nimmer and saying, do you think these numbers are right? You're gonna pick up a little bit. You're at 20. Yeah, for some reason yours got Weathersfield just barely tripped it over 20, and you're gonna pick up almost 3%, which is quite a bit. Why? I don't have a clue. They may have an idea. They can talk to you and give you some idea of why yours. And I don't know what it was previously with you folks. It's all online. You can look it up. But I'm pretty sure it's probably the sales numbers from COVID. Things just went haywire for 2 years.
And now they're gonna go the opposite because of the flood. And I'm not kidding, because property values have already started dropping.
Yep. At best, although I did talk with Cy Bailey, he's a really good resource for you folks if you have any questions on property tax. He works out of White Junction, and
He was a former town manager here, so we know him.
really,
Yeah,
okay,
briefly, but he was.
good. Well, that gives him a much more realistic perspective of things. And he said Weathersfield and Springfield prices are still going up. I don't know about Cavendish, but they can't continue to go up like they were. I mean, easy for me to say.
Yeah.
All right. That's all you had, John?
That's all I had.
Yeah.
We're good. Thank
All
you.
good news.
Yes. All right, we'll go to new business.
Oh, do you have any other here, citizens?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm interested in,
No problem. You can see everything.
purchasing the Academy building. And I just have a couple of questions on, because of the land that it sits on, I have some questions and concerns on what you guys, I've got questions for you guys, and I'm looking for input as well. My first question is that the property line. From what I understand, it sits on itself, basically, is what I've been told. My question though is this: by looking at this property, the property seems to be a straight line. And looking at pictures in the past of the property, the shed has always been on the left-hand side from here, right-hand side from the front of the building. Does that shed, is that the line of the property? I guess is my question. Because behind that shed, if it's 8 feet wide, then it would be 8 feet of property all the way to the road here. So that was one of my questions, and I know that I'm not gonna get answers right off the bat, but if you could lead me into figuring out how to research this, that would be wonderful. The other questions were that how many spaces are allocated for the building? Because if all these spaces on this parking lot are the town's property, then what spaces were available for the building? And then comes the question of snow removal. Where does the snow go? Is there spaces even there in the wintertime? Plowing schedule. Does the Historical Society have any input on the color, siding, windows, doors?
I can answer that,
Okay.
because that building is part on the Historic Trust. You will have to do in accordance with Historic Trust. And
Okay.
they will have input on what they want to see happen. You can't put up aluminum siding or anything. They care about the outside of the building, not as much about the inside. Is that correct, Bruce? Yeah.
And then how about updated windows? That would be through them as well.
Yeah, but I also think that there is some issues that probably could be worked out with Efficiency Vermont, and we certainly could work with you on that, because efficiency is important. And there are some ways you can have the appearance of the historic building yet still maintain that, but we can work with you on that.
Okay. Overnight parking. I mean, if we're gonna make it, my intention is to make it a rental property long-term and then have the front, a business rental. And that's another question is, do you have a preference for the mixed use of the building?
That would have to be worked out in the deed, I guess,
Right.
because right now it's doesn't allow for residential in the deed.
At all?
No,
Doesn't, right?
it's a commercial building.
Okay. And then, what else was there? I think that was it, overnight parking. Is there any town assistance for grant funding for the building at all? And then, I think that's it. I don't know how many of those questions can be answered right off the bat, but it's certainly kind of a make or break for purchasing a building that if I don't have a parking space or I only have one parking space, and you want it to be a business, then where are my customers parking, you know? I mean, if I put a bakery in the front of it, I guess it's only walking traffic. So I've got to try to figure out where the parking's at for that and how it's maintained. If, you know, it's maintained by the town, obviously. So, and I don't know if I could just give you a list and maybe come to the next select board meeting and we can rehash it over again and find out. I'm trying to get this project going as soon as the fall time, and try to make things happen. It's an awesome building. My father's been in it years and years. He's had his office in it. There was a bakery in the bottom for years. And it's got all kinds of historic value to it. I've been in the basement. The thing's built, like 8x8, you know, timber frame. It's crazy. And I think you've all been in there. It's beautiful vaulted ceiling. The flooring's great upstairs already. It's a project that really just needs to be tended to. And I'm willing to tend to it, but I need some questions answered basically before we can go further on buying it. So if I could just leave a list with you.
Is it the same, because we had it on the agenda there.
Yes, it is.
That's
Yeah.
the same
It's the
list,
same list.
because I could redistribute that and give everybody time to go
Okay.
over the list and
Mhm.
think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the one thing that we probably will not be able to answer on the list is the property survey, though.
Right.
So would I have to get it resurveyed?
I'm not sure.
There must be, the town must have a deed, right? that-
Their problem surely is.
Especially, right, since it was sold and went through those special
Right.
conditions.
Apartment office should have all of that. That was the lawyer that handled it.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked.
Diane and I have looked at them a little bit, it's a little unclear. I guess
So might need
the
it.
property
survey.
descriptions weren't
Mhm.
super clear.
My other question was that I missed was if the shed is obviously with it, can I put a deck on top of that shed for egress? Because right now it currently only has one staircase to the top floor.
The shed is actually not part of the original building that was built by the owner of the store, which is where he parked his car.
And I think some of that might also depend on the survey on where
Right.
the neighboring property would be as well.
Okay. So if the survey goes that the shed and the back lot is all part of that property, then that would kind of trade rents on that question.
Thank you.
I think the historic preservation, from the National Register is gonna dictate whether you can change the outside of the building.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I don't think it's on the National Register.
Yeah,
I think it is.
I don't
It
think
is
so.
on, yeah.
It's on the state
It's
register.
on the state,
It's not on the national.
just like the health center is not on the national, it's on the state.
Yeah.
All I know is that it's a state. When Reese went up there, they had no idea of half the stuff that was in there, they have no record of it.
Yeah.
But that
We
is
lost them to the
the
Eileen
oldest
flood.
building we have in town, it's still intact, cause that
Oh, yeah,
dates, that predates the museum.
Betty?
Another piece to that, I've worked with Reese when he bought that, and it was very clear and evident that it had to stay a public building. And I know that's been on your discussion for a while, but, you know, that second floor cove ceiling is so unique that was one of the restrictions, and you'd have to think long and hard about taking that off, I think.
I think that's one of the best features that's there. Yeah, definitely. So second question, and I know everybody's gonna go, Grevenfield. Is there any input that I can relay to any people that are asking me? I mean, we have, from what I understand, social media said that the Black River river guys are gonna go in there. I drove in over the weekend, you can't even get a truck in the driveway.
I can kind of answer that. I don't believe they're gonna go in there right off,
Okay.
just because of liability. It's dangerous in there.
Right.
It needs equipment in there.
Yep.
To take out the fence in the building and dumpster. I mean, it needs to be cleaned up to make it safe enough to even have people in there, volunteers to clean it up.
Right. I spoke with a gentleman over the weekend who I rent my equipment from, and just have him do like kind of an assessment of like what needs to happen over there just for input. He said that the fencing is more than likely non-salvageable for the perimeter fencing, but he thinks that if you hire a recycling company, you might be able to get money for the fencing. I'd be more than willing to volunteer to cut the concrete off the post, that way you're not putting concrete in the metal. He said that that's a good option right there. I spoke with Terry O'Brien for like 25 minutes today about he was trying to make it to here, and his greatest thing is he just says it can happen again. It can be built. He's the Field of Dreams guy.
Right.
When it comes to this. It's happened, it can be built. I know that there's concerns with reflooding, but there's also some stuff that we can do that's maybe a little bit more precautionary. Like, why not make the dugouts out of cinder block? Why not do some research and find out if there's like a plastic removable fence. So we put it in for baseball season, we take it out after baseball season and find storage. I've talked to LaValle's Building Supply. They're more than willing to jump on board and help us out with any building materials that we need. The excavation company that I work with said that he'd be more than happy to take off 20% of any labor costs that need to be done. I think what has happened in the past is the silt has just been taken off and the grass is growing through miraculously. I don't know how many of you gone down there yet or been down there, but the infield is still intact. It's still intact. It needs to be filled in. Maybe we don't fill it in with clay. Maybe we fill it in with some coarse sand. And
FEMA has guidelines for all of this, how to build a playing field in floodplains. They want you to build your playing fields there and keep your high and dry for homes. So I think you
And
just have to.
those are just the rules that we're gonna have to follow.
Right.
The same rules that these flood hazard regulations that everybody has to follow.
Right.
And so there has to be a lot more planning if we're gonna put a field there,
Right.
And, I'm not gonna answer, can't ask for the board, what we're gonna do there, but but if something is done there, it just has to be done correctly and within the regulations, and then it can be
Can
done.
I ask, is there the possibility that you will not allow Grevenfield to get green? Is that a possibility?
No,
I don't know.
yeah.
Well, when will you decide that?
I think the conversation, once we really get everything taken down, and then we can, kind of get the feel, like I get more of a feel now of what, what you're thinking with dugout. And I mean, dugouts can, I believe, be built, same as sheds can be built in the hazard regulations. They just have to be built to certain specs.
It's usually
And-
1 foot above the floodplain
And
for floor elevation.
for floor elevations for those, but I believe you can build like those dugouts as long as it's the correct material. You're able to flow water in and out of them without it, pushing them. And they have to be anchored down as well. So all these little things have to, come into play. I'm not positive yet on fencing, though, on whether fencing can be in the.
Sounds like you need to get a copy of the regs.
But I've also been to like Rutland, doesn't have any fencing.
Right.
They don't have any fencing. They play
And
ball.
And it could be why they don't have any fencing.
Right, and it more than likely is because of the river right there.
Right.
George 80 Park, the river's right there.
Right.
But they have, open dugouts,
Yeah.
and the backstop looks like it can be fixed. So if you just had the backstop and ran that one major field and set aside the Little League field until the funding's there, or until we decide what goes on there, then at least you'd be able to play ball. Because right now it feels like if we don't have that field, none of Cavendish is going to learn how to play baseball.
Right.
And they're going to go to Green Mountain with no knowledge of playing baseball because they never got a chance.
What about the Cavendish side of Fletcher Field? There
That flooded too. And
that flooded too, but that's.
But apparently the rugby crew's been in there over the after the flood, and it's bad, really bad news over there.
My question is that I have been talking to Chris also about maybe submitting the grant application for the ARPA funds, but that is the deadline on that September 30th. And I mean, like, if you guys don't make a decision before that time, what do I just go ahead and try to submit the application in lieu of the fact that it might, or is that something you think you'll have decided by then?
I don't think we've decided that it wasn't going to be a field.
Okay.
I hadn't.
Right. I think we're more trying to figure out the financing of that.
And how we can do it, make sure it's done correctly.
Because I had just heard there was a possibility that they wouldn't even put it back. So that's
Well,
what
I think
made me
that
wonder
could be misunderstood as might not be put it back
in
the
same
way it
way.
currently
Okay.
is.
Plus you see a lot of stuff on
Or could it be
social media
somewhere
that's
else?
not actually true.
Oh, I don't
You
use
know.
social media.
Or if there was some other place.
Or could it be somewhere else, which there really isn't any place in the town that is considered? We went through this with Irene. We looked and looked.
Could have been Potts Hill, Potts Fields,
but
back in the day.
Foxfield is now
No, I
a
know.
rescue
Yeah,
spot,
that's right.
but the other thing is, to how they put that back together, Carolyn Solzhenitsyn really speared that. They played a concert, they got money from the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, they came up.
All
There
the
was
money for
one
that
fundraiser.
field when that was done was raised, and I sat through all those meetings here. And many of the things that the select board said, do this, do that, don't do this, that, and the other. None of that happened. Everything was supposed to be on skids so it could be taken out, so there weren't supposed to be playground and all that stuff. They
Just did whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so there has to be some oversight.
There's a lot of work, and it has to be a lot of coordinated work for sure.
Yeah,
And it starts with me getting equipment.
You're not going to be playing ball
So-
this year. Yeah,
Well,
that's the thing.
ball's not until the spring.
Right.
I mean, we can plant grass in October.
Right.
It's the best time of year to plant grass. I mean, if we even need to plant grass.
Right.
So I don't know, like, who we can contact to assess the situation, or just say, hey, listen, this is what you need to do. I mean, I know we all have a relationship somehow with M&M, and maybe that's someone that we can just say, hey, can we borrow your time for an ear for an hour today? What would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
Because if the land's not even in use, then why bother looking into how high the dugout's got to be?
Right.
You know, and you know what's going to go on there. I mean, and I'm like, there are alternatives. There are all our alternatives to fencing, the dugouts. You know, all we really need is a backstop and 4 bases and a place to run,
Right.
and we can play ball.
The other thing, that field is used more by locals who walk their dogs.
Absolutely.
And that, they can start doing that once that's cleaned up.
Right, so it's that initial
Cleanup is what's
It's the
problem.
initial
cleanup is right now.
Yeah.
Is that something,
It's
The-
really a driveway, I think.
I fear that like all that sand that you're seeing in there could be hiding boards and with nails and stuff where that's the only thing that scares me about having volunteers in there.
Right.
And you bring equipment in there that could, you don't have to worry about them stepping on it.
Right.
And now that some of these contractors are available again, because a lot of the roads are put together, we can get somebody in.
I don't want
if there were,
like she said, I don't want the deadline to be up.
if there were people who were willing to help coordinate and work with you, would that be okay? Like,
That would be.
I had a conversation with Terry too, and he would help.
Yep.
And he knows that place better than anybody.
Anybody, right?
There's also a lot of equipment that went from there back into neighbors' yards that all needs to be gotten out of there. And that was one of the things that Brett and I discussed, because we always had the 5th and 6th graders work in that field, second, third week as river sweep, and they take out the knotweed, they work on the path, they clean up everything they can. Now, this year will be contingent on what y'all can get done. But that's a good group of people, and Brett did get some money, and they're doing some pretty
Do you wanna-
incredible stuff.
Talk to Terry about coordinating with,
I would love to.
Yeah.
and let's see if we can get some machines in there first to clean up so that then we can say we're having a weekend, we're going to volunteer and.
My question was that when I brought the excavation guy with me, just on foot in there, he basically said, we can't even get a machine in here until,
Well, it's
You know,
being a town property. I mean, we have availability to bring material in there to build that road back up to get in there.
Okay.
So,
perfect.
Yeah, the other thing is, Terry isn't the rec director. The rec director really needs to head this up with
And I-
rec, not
Well, she
I
should
talked to
be-
Stephanie, and she wants to get on board.
I think she needs to be part of this whole conversation.
Yeah,
Yes,
But she'll need help, and if
Yeah.
Terry's knowledge and your resources.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be more than happy to resource everything out I can.
But whatever you do, you have to go through Rick.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rick and Steph.
Absolutely.
Bob Jason just had a pretty big job on Davis Road, and he lives in town, he
And he's now
might
pretty much done with Davis Road. So,
Appreciate that.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
All right, good.
thanks.
All right, now we'll go to new business. 1, LEMP update.
Yeah, these acronyms, they're long. But, I just wanted to give the update that the local emergency management plan and the local hazard mitigation plan have both been submitted to the state. I also, we got an email that the town's ERAF rating, which is the emergency relief assistance funding, is now at 17.5%. So we went from the 7.5 to the 17.5. So we did make it in time to get that extra 10% funding for this event. Their local hazard mitigation plan is currently under review. When things slow down a little bit, we will get back to making that a real plan, having meetings and before we adopt it. It was a very quick meeting, and we put something into the state for review, but it still needs a little work. So when it slows down, we'll get that. And I believe we put that on the website as well. I don't have copies because it's a 96-page document, so it's a larger document.
All right. The flood hazardous area regulations.
Yeah, I put this on the agenda because I just want to remind everybody that we have these regulations. I feel like I've heard that people were unaware that these regulations were here. You know, we've had them for quite some time. You know, as part of the National Flood Insurance Program, which, you know, we've been enrolled in since 1981, so it's nothing new. And these regulations can be found on the town's website. And we are just now putting together new permit applications and checklists, which will, you know, accompany our building permits in the future. And people should really be looking for the town to, when they're ready to rebuild anything on their property, contacting us for permits to do so. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
3, Citizens Letter Emergency Planning Committee.
Yep. We received a letter, and I don't know if that is probably the correct way to state that as an emergency planning committee, but that's what I wrote down. So we received a letter from a citizen concerned about local hazards, you know, including the flooding, of course, and the structure of the emergency planning and future planning. I'm not really looking for an answer on this from the board tonight, but it's something moving forward that might be a discussion. I haven't talked to our emergency management director, but obviously he, you know, that a lot of this is, you know, goes through him as well. You know, that's kind of what the director does as well. So he would have to be a big part, and I haven't brought that up to him yet. And I believe we'll talk about that because we were supposed to meet and talk about the what we did there last month, and we haven't gotten together yet. And that's my fault, and I'll reach out to him and make sure we do and bring this up and go from there.
All right. Reassessment of properties due to flood.
We received a letter also asking to have flood damaged properties reassessed. Just kind of making sure we're all aware of this. I believe we're talking with Diane, there might be a reason to have the Board of Abatement meeting soon anyways. And so it can be discussed then.
Okay.
So.
All right. Road condition update.
They're beautiful compared to what they were a month ago. They really are. I mean, the town's done, and the outside contractors have just done an incredible job putting the roads back together. That's quite quickly. There's only a couple roads, and that's Bailey Hill Road and Chaos Turnpike that aren't really currently passable by vehicle. Chaos Turnpike, we plan on being there relatively soon. Bailey Hill Road, we can't get there until the state does their portion of it, and I'm not sure when that is. But as you're driving around, even though the roads are built and back together, you'll see that a lot of them need top dressing still, and a lot of them need ditch work, and the edges, they're still a little rough and scary in spots. But they came together pretty quick, and we'll be spending the next couple months doing that type of work and just kind of the finishing touches on all the roads. And I have this question all the time, and I have no time frame or an answer for when 131 is going to be open.
How about Cavendish Golf? Is that open yet?
It is all the way through. It is now, I mean, they're working on it all the time. So there's excavators and there's trucks there, but it is passable all the way through at the moment.
Same with Depot, or you still want people off
I still want people off of Depot. We're going to be going to Depot Street next. I meant to put that in here. We're going to be going to Depot Street next. It was kind of, we stayed away from there because we didn't need to make the situation any worse. Now things have slowed down a little bit. We're going to go in and, you know, do all the sides of the roads and build everything back and get ready for paving because you know, a lot of these roads need to be paved so we can plow in this winter. So, and that's one of them.
A question on the Cavendish Golf Road that connects. What's the road that it connects in to go to Baltimore?
Deep Brook Road.
Deep
that?
Brook, that's what it
Deep
is.
Brook
Yeah.
Road.
Oh, is that road? Does that connect? Can it still connect into?
I think it's completely passed.
That's down Chester, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I
Just
drove
about.
in a week ago from, well, I guess it was Cavendish Cove. I didn't go on Dean Brook, but you can go all the way through to 103
Great, that's good.
I had a
on
question.
Densmore and on.
Someone asked me about Quent Phelan Road and the sad shape that that's in.
It's in sad shape.
Yeah.
We've had a little internal discussion on the town doesn't even own a skid box or anything like that to put paving together, and it's beyond patching at the moment. Whether or not we can rent a smaller paver and do that, it's been discussed and talked about to do something a little bit more permanent than patching, but not the rebuild that it needs.
When's the next round of paving grants?
Well, they do the paving grants yearly. I mean, you gotta have the match.
Yeah, but
in there.
we're not on top of the list
We're
yet.
not.
We just
Well-
were for Tarble Hill, so
Yeah,
I think
Sure.
that
that's
it's another
class-
year or
that's a
so
class two
before we
road.
get
That's a
something.
class 2 road.
And
Quite
the state
Phelan and
wanted
20
that
Mile
to be
Street.
a class 2 road, and it was destroyed when they were doing the solar farm with the heavy concrete trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it should be moved up the list because it's a failed road.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I
I don't know
dangerous.
whether I thought about just magging it and putting it back to gravel for like the rest of it for now until we can have the funds to do
I
something.
thought of that also.
I thought of that as well, but there's pros and cons to that. I mean,
The rest of the road, class 2 to Ludlow, or whatever it is all
It's dirt.
dirt till you
It's
get way down by Commonwealth.
and I don't know if they had. Obviously, it's nice to have that paved with that hill where you can put salt to it instead of the sand. So that could be part of why they originally paved it. I'm not sure.
And the fact that it was so cheap back then.
Yeah,
Oil
right.
was-
Right.
but,
Back when they paved everything because
yeah.
we had the money and they
I
had,
mean,
and it was cheaper.
I mean, Hill Road was paved down to the bridge, and we reclaimed that. And it's graded a lot, but it's
It's fine.
saved a lot of money. So it's
Tarble Hill too.
Yeah.
Remember when it was paved?
paved all the way over.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a bad road winter. That would always break up.
Where was it paved to? How far?
All the way to the intersection.
The intersection in Napalm.
Yeah, Phelps to the Gulf right
Yeah.
before that.
Don't know what. I lived within a mile there. I just didn't even know. Guess I didn't go that far. Went the other direction most of the time. I don't remember it being paved that way.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I was a kid. It was a while ago.
It was a day or two ago.
And you're all set with that then?
I am, yeah.
Okay, we'll move review and sign solar bond note.
I have this in the packet. I'm gonna recommend not signing this bond note. And we're looking to other options to see if we can get a more favorable interest rate.
How long do we have till?
We're past that,
Oh,
but I think anything can be made up a little bit different in the interest rates as well, even if there is a penalty for that. This interest rate is 6.35. It's not that favorable to us. But we're not going to wait that much longer. We'll have an answer in a day or two, anyways. So
well, okay, I guess we could always just come in and sign if
Yeah.
it's something.
Yeah, we can do that.
I didn't know if we needed to have a motion for that or not.
Probably just a consensus of the board.
Yeah.
Okay to wait.
Okay, yeah, we're all good to wait.
Get a better rate.
All right, we'll move to 7, approve special event liquor license for Golden Stage.
I didn't, and we had email problems and we couldn't get these out to you in time, but there's a permit for a festival permit. This is for Opportunity Capital Management LLC out of Belmont, for the Vermont, for the Honey Festival
Mhm.
that they have over there. And that would be just a one-day event for September 9th from 10 until 4.
What is your pleasure?
I move to approve the special event liquor license for Golden Stage Inn on the 9th of September.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None? And then we have one for Singleton.
Yep, I had to call Singleton's because I hadn't even heard what their event was. But this, it's the same business. It's going to be Opportunity Capital Management out of Belmont. They are the Mount Holly Brewery, I believe. It is for theirs. It is actually this Saturday is the event from 11 until 3 o'clock.
What's the event?
They are having a barbecue, is what I was told today. It's a car show barbecue, and they were gonna have pourings of a local beer. So
At Singleton's?
at Singleton's, yep.
I thought there was one the same day up at Off the Rails there that I saw advertised. But
Oh, there might be. I'm not sure.
car show and everything.
But yeah, it sounds like a neat event. I hadn't heard about it. I don't know why I hadn't heard about it yet, but it sounds like an interesting time. I mean, cars, barbecue, and beer.
Yeah, it's never been a bad mix.
Oh, yeah.
I'll approve the license. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, old business. Tree removal.
Yeah, well, this one just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Yep.
I put in the packet the consent agreement, which I have not got back yet, and that is not Danielle's holding it up. That was me not getting it out until last week when we got this letter and I mailed it to her. I expect to get this letter back from her relatively quickly because I talked to her on it and she wants to do it. But I don't believe we can do it until we have this consent. And I still haven't got any other quotes either, so yet. I have people saying they're gonna be here, but I have not got them, so
All right.
put it on the list so I didn't forget about it.
Manager's report.
So obviously we've had a couple busy last 2.5 weeks since the last meeting. Most of our roads are come together at this point.
Excuse me.
Other than the 2 that I mentioned earlier that are not done yet, and 3 because Depot Street as well. We now have 2 outside contractors working instead of 5, which is just, they put them all back together. And I believe we're gonna be in pretty good shape coming into the winter now and plowing. I also wanna mention we had a water leak, not a main, on a water service at 7420 Mile Stream. And the water department and M&M put that back together relatively quickly and with minimal problems to the landowner. And I want to say that, the water and sewer worked very hard through the last month as well. They've had to put a lot of stuff back together as well from this flooding. Not necessarily, we didn't have any major problems, but we had just enough to keep the 2 or 3 people we have busy enough. And of course, I really want to thank the staff at the town office for all they've done during the last month. They're usually the ones getting all the first calls, concerns, and everything, and they've handled everything with professionalism, and they really helped me keeping things straight this last month. Like I couldn't do it without them for sure. And I want to thank the highway department as well. They've done an incredible job. I know it's tough we're not getting everything we need done all the time, but they are doing absolutely everything they can. And it's quite impressive that they're hauling for the contractors all week long because nobody has trucks. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, they're out grading and top dressing roads to keep them up. So they're working 6 to 7 days a week, and it's pretty good. And of course, I want to stress about the flood hazard regulations. Anyone building or rebuilding, contact me or the town office. We'll let you know if you need the permit through those flood regulations. I mean, can't stress that enough. These are things that we have to do. So just reach out. And they're going to be done by a case-by-case basis. We have the regulations, and anybody can read through them. They're on the website. I recommend reading through them and getting in touch with us. And lastly, I just want to say that we're all signed up for FEMA, but we have not been contacted by phone call or sat down with anybody yet. So we're there, we're ready, and whenever they're ready, they'll be out and they'll be in touch. So.
And this was, I remember Diane mentioning that they had a portal set up now.
They had a lot of stuff is done online now, so we had to sign up through their online portal, and we had you had to take a class, or not a class, but an informational meeting. And after those two were done, they'll get in touch with us. I think last week at a meeting, I heard that it'll be 2 or 3 more weeks before we get somebody gets in touch with us. But I'm not positive on that either. I mean, it could be tomorrow, but they'll just show up, which is fine. We want to get the ball rolling too.
All right. Steve, you have anything?
When you were talking about the tree removal, were you talking about?
At a Universalist church, yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, the other part of it that you didn't mention is, did you talk to the folks about moving cars and boats and stuff?
I did. That was the landowner as well, and they're all on board. They want that tree gone, so they will actually allow access on that driveway, move all that stuff, and so we can get in there.
Okay, he'll be here. My son will be here at the end of the week, this week, and I think he's here for about 10 days. So
Okay.
it works.
So if that ends up working, did he have insurance? I mean, that was one question that we had.
He has insurance, and I can ask him to bring a certificate.
Okay, that would just be one concern or thought I would have.
Sure.
Shannon?
So I have nothing else.
Okay, Shannon?
No, I'm all set.
And George?
I was curious about the Maple Street, all that figured out.
Yeah, what we did today was, what happened was, it looks like the road to the water tower up there, when it came down Maple Street, and when it came down to the bottom, it filled that pipe with just gravel and dirt. And it's clay. There was a spot in there, clay tile, pipe, which ended up cracking under the pressure. The water pressure came up and bubbled the road and destroyed the road. It's impressive that water could do that and not back up and come out the catch basins up above it. But today we went in and we found it. I guess we kind of have to thank Springfield as well. They came down with their large Vector truck. We cleaned out the pipe that was still good but full, and we cleaned it out and put in a new piece of pipe, and by tomorrow or the next day we'll be ready to pave. So it's clear and running anyways.
Yeah,
It's nice to have those connections with Springfield.
It didn't hurt. So it was a
Appreciate they did that for us.
I do too. It was a 45 minutes after I called. They helped us out, and we would not have got anything done without it. So
Good. Eddie, George?
That's okay.
Mike?
I'm good.
I'm good. Have a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make said motion.
Second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.